Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to yet again another fantastic indie creator interview. It is your Caped Crusader, Cody, and we are keeping it geekly with our new friend, Thacher Cleveland. We're here to break down Grim Reefer and everything in between. And this is the first interview where I can wear my own Keeping It Geekly merch. We just had this shirt printed
right
yesterday. Very excited. 142 episodes, and I finally have my own shirt.
Oh,
Let's
congratulations,
go. So,
man.
Yeah, Thacher, welcome to the stream. How are you doing today, man?
I'm good. I'm doing real good. Thank you so much for having me and giving me a chance to talk about the comic. I really do appreciate it.
Absolutely. I had the opportunity to read issue 1 over on Global Comics. Is that the only website where people can read issue 1 right now?
Right now, yes. I was about to put it up on Comixology right before the big Comixology Kindle clusterfuck. So I might be putting it back up there, but honestly, Global Comics has been it's so easy to use and such a good platform. They're not paying me to say that at all. But I'm just sort of like, I'm perfectly
Chris
happy
in that room somewhere with like a weapon pointed at your head?
No, not at all. But yeah, I mean, I'll probably put it up on Comixology at some point. But right now, that, or if you find me at the various shows that I go to, I do a lot of comic conventions, or you can order physical copies through my web store. So.
No, absolutely. We have Oblivia over on Twitch stopping in to hype up the chat. Good morning, Oblivia, and welcome to the stream. It's time for us to get to blazing to the roots of your indie comic creation. You know, where did it all begin for you?
I have always loved comics. When I was the first comic I remember getting, it was a sick day, and I was probably like in first or second grade. My mom got me a Batman comic, probably what has ended up being like the most inappropriate Batman comic you could possibly get. I'll be showing my age here a little bit, but it is, I want to say it was like Batman. It's like Batman like 388 or something. And the cover is literally it's Batman's grim Batman face with a gun pointed like right at his head. It's like an extreme close up. And she was like, "No, my sick kid, he should totally read this." And it's the first appearance of that famed villain, the Film Freak. But for some reason, I read this comic that was just chock full of stuff that I absolutely did not understand. Like, it ends on like a Psycho reference where like Vicky Vale's about to get stabbed in the shower by this guy because she's like pulled into a hotel. You know, it's so weird. But just ever since that, I was just absolutely hooked on comics. And when I, got to high school and decided that I wanted to write for a living, comics, it was like right there, like both writing prose stuff, because I do also do prose fiction, short and long, like, short stories and novels. But making comics was always going to be part of that for me. Like I was telling you before the show, like I was doing a deep dive on my computer a little bit ago, and I found a pitch packet from like 15 years ago, where a buddy of mine who is an artist and I were putting something together. We took it to Wizard World. It was probably the last like really big Wizard World Chicago. I want to say it was like probably 2007. It's like right before the wheels came off on, them being the convention go-to place. But yeah, it's just funny. And then, just I've gotten stuff in anthologies since then. I've, self-published stuff since then. But it is kind of funny. Like, it's making comics has always been, top of the list of, things for me.
So what was that first pitch about, if you could tell us?
It's actually something I'm still working on, which goes to show there's no such thing as a wasted idea. It's changed and evolved so much over time. It's something that I've tentatively titled Solomon's Wardens. It is a sort of an urban fantasy adventure It kind of ties into because I'm a comic book nerd. I was doing the extended universe thing before, before that was like a household theme. So, I mean, it kind of ties into some of the prose fiction stuff that I've done. I've got my own little kind of shared universe. That's a very, like things will kind of move in and out. Eagle-eyed readers will be able to be like, oh yeah, I remember them talking about that guy. So yeah, it's adventure, supernatural stuff. Fighting monsters, wizards, demons, all kinds of cool stuff like that. Kind of so set cool in the backdrop of because at the time, I lived in a small town. So, I mean, it was very much sort of like balancing that with living, balancing that kind of thing while living in a small town in Ohio, small college town.
Hey, so. Ohio hype. Let's go. Let's
go.
So how does weed smoking come into this universe? Like,
Grim Reefer is its own thing. It's Grim Reefer. I mean, although it could be, you never know. I'm never gonna close the door
randomly.
Yeah, this story, like so many other stories, has its origin in just being really bored and like just letting my mind wander. Before when I first kind of came up with the idea for Grim Reefer, which would have been about, maybe about like 7 or 8 years ago at this point, I didn't really smoke at all. Like I smoked very rarely, like, with friends. I was always the guy that it's like, and in some ways I still kind of am the guy that's like, wait, how do you use this contraption? Like I always used to joke that it's like, this is why I like drinking. I've been drinking most of my life and I know how to do it. You just basically open the hole and pour. But, it's not the best way to be. It's, not super healthy. But yeah, I was working a job back then where I think I had just kind of hung out with some friends and we'd smoked. And I was just kind of like reflecting on it. And the job that I had, I worked at a coffee company. Another famous drug of choice of mine. But I worked on a machine basically filling 5-pound bags of espresso beans all day, so I'd be packing up like about like 4,000 pounds.
Yeah, that sounds tedious.
Espresso. Yeah, it really was. I was in great shape though, not so much now at all. Like I stopped doing that job and but yeah, just like, standing there, working, hitting buttons and stuff, like you had plenty of time to think. And I just sort of started thinking about that kind of loss of control, regardless of what it is that you like, whatever substance you're having, like that sort of that feeling of almost kind of like dissociation you get when you're either really drunk or really high or on whatever, it's for the most part is generally, it's a fun experience. That's why we keep doing what we do. Yeah. But then you sort of like put kind of like a body horror spin onto it. And I honestly, for those that don't know, the elevator pitch for Grim Reefer, it's about a crop of marijuana that was grown on the spot where a violent criminal was killed. So anyone who smokes it gets possessed by his ghost, and then he uses that person's body to continue his, as I like to call it, kill crazy rampage, getting revenge on the people on the cops that killed him and his second cousin who sort of abandoned him to be killed by the police, who's our main character of the story. So yeah, I don't know when necessarily like that aspect of it kind of jumped in, but I feel like it must have been there kind of like right from the get-go. I was just like, okay, yeah, like just like I think just the idea or like the phrase of haunted marijuana, like that was just sort of like click. Yeah. And then it's like, okay, what can we do with this? Where do we go with that? And then that's where sort of everything else, no pun intended, grew from.
And I had the opportunity to read issue 1, and I was surprised by the lack of actual weed smoking in the comic itself. I always go into books without any expectations, but off the, reading the title, I was like, okay, there's going to be a lot of weed smoking. And I think there was only literally like one scene in particular at the end where he lights up a bowl. If anything, it was more or less, it seemed like how people viewed it. Like how people, like there was one scene in particular where the dude's like, it's messed up. You can go out there, get drunk, do this, do that, but God forbid you smoke, on your free time. And that's a big common argument, like as it stands right now. So I really loved how it wasn't like your typical like weed smoking like film or comic. It actually had layers to it, with weed being like one of the the actual smoking part being like one of the less viewed parts of it actually.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's the thing is like number one, like the most important thing to me is story. And making it believable. I mean, granted, it's a pretty far-fetched concept. I call it a horror comedy. There's a lot of violence in it. There's going to be a lot more violence in it.
I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah. So it's like it's a lot of different things. Because to my mind, you can't just be like, hey man, let's just have like a bunch of like weed smoking going on and everything. And, like that's cool, but there has to be more, again, for lack of a better term, more substance to the story to make it interesting. And I think, and that was part of, once I was, I sort of like, okay, haunted marijuana, this is what it is. This is what the premise is. Because the main character Marty, he's a young man who's kind of down on his luck. He's trying to get a new job, and all of the stuff that, places where he could be, he could has an opportunity to get work, is going to drug test him. And he's someone that I think, and a lot of people do, like they, uses marijuana for self-medication. That's something that I've done, like that I started doing during the pandemic because, the world was awful. It's still not super great. It's a little better, but, so like, I wanted to show like how, like that, cause I think that dichotomy is important to me because I have worked at a place where, I was drug tested. It was the first time I was ever drug tested. It was at a call center, like I was working in a call center and they wanted to drug test me. I'm like, okay,
why?
that's yeah, exactly. It's like whatever. It's like
I actually want to talk on the phone now. Like,
like it's just like, okay, like, but again, it was one of those places where like, and it was like the whole sort of like wine o'clock culture. Like every other cubicle, there'd be someone with like, oh, is it wine o'clock yet? Let me get my beers on, and so it's like, we have a very different approach to alcohol than we do to marijuana, and I don't want to use the comic as a soapbox, but more of just sort of like, this is a thing that happens, like I know, and I've known plenty of people who, they use weed to self-medicate and that's it. Like they're not going off and doing, crazy, crazy stunts or, robbing banks or like, being like, oh, I smoked a joint and now I'm going to like, eat handfuls of heroin, like it's just like a thing that people do, like alcohol. So that was definitely something that I wanted to kind of include in there.
So we have J. Michael Miller over on YouTube stopping in and say, I love the name. Absolutely. The name was awesome. So let's talk about issue 1 a little bit before diving into the Kickstarter. Issue 1, I thought started off great. We had a police chase between our protagonist and his piece of trash second cousin. And I just loved the dynamics between these two. They end up crashing. You said he left him there to fend for the police. I would almost say that rightfully so, though. Dude had a gun pointed at his head. I would have done the same thing. Hashtag screw that dude. So I loved how police chased him into the barn and just how brutal it was. I'm a big fan of like gory, brutal scenes, and just to see him like maul police with like a pitchfork, to like just brutalize them with sticks. Even the end part of the comic was awesome as well. I mean, I just loved how everything built up to like, you know, the current day, the way you did like the flashback and then like the 6 months later part.
Yeah, well, thank you. You kind of, sorry, I had a headphone issue there for a second, so I missed most of that. But I'm gonna assume that it was positive.
Yeah. Praise, high
yeah,
praise.
But yeah, no, it was a lot of fun to do because at its heart, Grim Reefer is it's a slasher movie on paper. I grew up watching every, you know, and again, I'm going to be dating myself here. By the time I graduated high school, there wasn't a video store in my town where me and my friends hadn't rated every single horror movie in there. Like we get to the point where we're just like, all right, here's this one that we've been avoiding because it looks totally stupid, but we have nothing else to watch on a Saturday night, you know, just hanging out. So, all right, we'll get this one and watch it. But yeah, it is very much like, you know, owes a lot of its existence to that kind of stuff. And it's like I've had people compare it to Child's Play, to Evil Bong, which funnily enough I've never seen.
I've never seen that either.
I know of it. I mean, those full moon movies, I absolutely adored those full, you know, like the Full Moon line of like direct-to-video stuff. I mean, the Puppet Master movies were my jam back in the day. So
yeah, we were talking backstage, and I really got heavy Chucky vibes. Just the fact that, you know, when he dies and he comes back through the weed, I thought that was an awesome way to do it. But it also gave me kind of like How High vibes. You know, where, you know, when they put their friend's ashes and they grow the plant, you know, because ultimately the cousin, he gets killed. And we think he's gone, but later on, you know, someone smokes a little bit of the good green stuff, and he comes back. I love that transition too. The way you can't really tell it's the evil cousin until you look into the glasses, and the way his eyes are detailed within the glasses was such an awesome touch.
Yeah, Claudio Munoz, the artist, he and I worked together on a comic of mine, just like an 8-page story for a series called Mythpocalypse, about creatures from mythology and folklore invading our world. He did an amazing job on a story as an 8-pager about minotaurs who've taken over downtown Chicago and made it into a maze. And
wow.
as soon as I saw, like, if you think he draws someone getting their head stomped in, well, wait, like, you should see him draw a minotaur, especially a minotaur with like a shotgun and an axe made out of a stop sign. Like, as soon as I saw his, like, you know, him turning in character work for me, I was like, yeah, this is a guy that I want to work with for a very long time.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love everything that he's done. The acting choices that he has, the characters make, the expressions, that transition scene, especially, you know, where
it was awesome.
The face and the smoke kind of, you know, behind Jake's head as he's lighting up. Yeah, so I really lucked out in finding a great art team, and Kote Karjaval, who does the colors. You know, he really like the book just really like visually pops for me. So I'm very I'm a lucky and very happy writer. I was absolutely just tickled every page that came in. I was like, oh, this is amazing.
You know, and I gotta say, the ending of issue 1 was just phenomenal as well. I'm a big fan of putting characters in situations that's really bleak and hopeless. So to have them like covered in blood and have the police be like, stop. Like, I won't give up too much of a spoiler, but to have police like catch them red-handed, literally red-handed, was just like, oh, chef kiss. Like, you know, wakes up, has no idea what happened. Like, you know, because it's like now I have to read issue 2. I have to see how the hell he gets himself out of this. Like,
yeah, that's you know, and and like I said, there's going to be way more wild stuff. Issue 2 is scripted, and just, you know, we're waiting for the the Kickstarter to finish up so we can get that out there for folks. Issue 2 is a wild ride. Issue 2 has Marty coming face to face with the ghost of his cousin, and sort of having to, being forced to believe, this is a thing that is actually happening. And then, imagine trying to explain that to the police, especially when, there's a sheriff's deputy who just already hates his guts.
And
for reasons that we will discover, later on in the series. But
the only way to get them to actually see that as real is to have them smoke it,
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, you want, and the last thing you want, especially in this situation, is to, have a bunch of well-armed police officers smoking this particular weed. But who knows? Maybe that's something that's going to happen in the future.
So I think right now would be the perfect segue. Let's go ahead and pull up the campaign for issue 2 and see what we're campaigning for. So we are looking at Grim Reefer issue number 2, the continuation of the cannabis-induced carnage as more people succumb to the haunted marijuana plaguing the small town. Currently at 1,379 of 3,500 with 26 backers and 20 days to go. I love this little corner box right here. Is it called a corner box or is it a letter box?
Quarter box, letter box, whatever it is.
The Chronic Code Authority. Like, it was just too good.
Yeah, when we were doing, I'm always a sucker for, and you can see the full over my shoulder here. Which one is it? Yeah, there we go. That's that's the cover for the second issue. It's an homage to that House of Mystery, that famous House of Mystery where the guy's beckoning you in. But our guy has a big old bong that he's enticing people with, and it's do you dare enter the grow house? Because that's where we sort of find ourselves in the second issue. But yeah, as I was putting that together, they had the old, that had the old Comics Code Authority thing on it, and I was like, oh, then we futz around with it, and then the idea of having the Chronic Code Authority on there just absolutely tickled me. So I wish I'd thought of that to have it on issue 1. But c'est la vie.
Hey, reprints are always an option too, right?
Exactly. And plus, end the campaign, one of our awards is a Chronic Code Authority sticker.
Okay. And then right here is the link for everyone to check out this Kickstarter with us. If you can't back it, feel free to just share it. Any sort of retweeting or sharing on Facebook help gets the word out there and gets more eyes on this comic. So here is the story so far. The cannabis-induced carnage continues, picking up where we left off with the last issue. After a grisly murder committed by someone who has no memory of what happened, Marty and his friends have to get to the bottom of where this tainted strain of weed is coming from. Do they dare enter the grow house? So, yeah, it's an interesting cover right here. You said this was paying tribute to what comic again?
It's House of Mystery 88. It's a old school. Let me see if I can. Let's see if I can pull it up on there. But yeah, and it's like they've used it for the cover of like the Showcase Presents House of Mystery. Let's see here.
It also reminds me of a little bit of like a Goosebumps cover too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it has that vibe. I love it.
Here, I will put that. Here's a link to, it's not the original cover, but in Amazon or on Amazon, the Showcase Presents House of Mystery cover.
Okay, I gotcha.
That on there.
Yeah, I can pull that up real quick too. Give me 1 second. Actually, I don't know if I can. It might. Yeah. That's gonna. It'll actually take off the Kickstarter. But no, that I'll put that in the chat too for everyone to see. That is awesome. I loved it because it looks like it's not spot on, but like it's like really close, like the way it's paying tribute to it.
Yeah, I said to him, I said Claudio, I was like, this is my idea. See what you could do with it. he sent the art back. He's also he's very fast. Like with the first issue, we were funded mid-September. I would say the whole, I had previously commissioned the first 5 pages of issue 1 when we were just in the process of pitching it around before doing Kickstarter. But once the Kickstarter money came in and everything, they had the art and colors done.
That's so
by
awesome.
Late October.
Wow.
It was they are machines, and I'm not the only
too. Is right here, the blue highlight on this with this color scheme is just gorgeous.
Yeah, Kote actually has on his YouTube, he did a process video of him coloring this, which is very cool. I've shared that. I think I might. Actually, I don't think I've shared it yet, but I've got I'll put it up on my TikTok and Instagram and stuff. But yeah, it just looks great. And then we've had a few people read it and enjoy it.
Yeah. I love this one from your mom too. A lot of F words, a little predictable. Dang, mom.
Yeah, I called her up because for some reason, my mom she does not read comics or like horror stuff or anything like that, but she was oh, well, you should send me your comic. I was like, all right, I'll send you my comic. And she works at a library, so she was like, well, send me a couple of copies because they might want to have it for them. I was like, okay. So I sent it to her, and we had a phone call, and she's like, so I read your comic. I was like, okay. Yeah, a lot of F word, and I was like, a lot of F words, a little predictable. And just in the back of my mind, I was like, a little predictable, Mom. It's about haunted marijuana. How predictable? I thought at the very least I'd be able to stump my mom with what happened, but apparently not. Apparently, my mom is some sort of super genius.
No, I loved it so much. It was when I was going through this, it made me laugh so hard. Yeah. So here is a look at issue 1, the cover for issue 1.
Yep.
If you get high, they die. I love the play on words too.
Yeah,
so
if they're
awesome.
I'm a big fan of puns and dad jokes, so that's been one of the most fun parts about doing the Kickstarter is coming up with tier names or other things. On the back cover it says puff puff slash with the our little Grim Reefer guy that's in the logo.
And then here is a little bit about the story as well. Just to give you guys a little quick recap, the series focuses on Marty, a down on his luck Native American 20-something who's coerced by his scumbag second cousin Grant to be his wheelman for a simple robbery. When things get violently out of hand and people start dying, Marty makes his escape. Left on his own, Grant has a bloody standoff with the cops in an abandoned barn that ends with him being killed in a hail of gunfire. So basically, he ends up dying. Weed ends up getting grown on the spot where he dies, and then we are then given haunted buds.
Yes, and there he is, cursing them with his last breath in that the classic monster, horror movie sort of way.
And I love how this gives you a really good example of just how bloody and gory this gets. I mean, it gets way worse than this, but these guys are just covered in blood. There's a pool of blood surrounding this guy. And right here, blood, he literally just got done beating, a dude's face in with a stick. It gets graphic.
Yeah. I mean, because it's you got it's for the subject matter or whatever, you got to go big, go big or go home, that kind of slasher extreme horror. That's always fun to play with.
So right here are some of the rewards too. So before we get into that, are these going to be the same rewards as the tiers on the side?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So we've got, we got a t-shirt, we got a different sticker this time around. And then a couple of opportunities to actually be in the comic as well.
So let's check that out. So we have the quick hitter for $1. And like I said, I love these names too. These are so funny. Slash the douchey on the left-hand side for $5. So that'll get you a digital copy of Grim Reefer issue number 2. The Deadly Dime Bag. So for $10 or more, you're going to get a digital copy of Grim Reaper issue number 2, and then a digital comic bundle. So what's all going to be in that comic bundle?
A bunch of stuff that has been in other that I've had published in other anthologies. I'm also in the process of kind of sort of crowdsourcing some other stuff, like doing some cross promotion with some other people. Nothing that I can really kind of share as of yet, but it's not just going to be my stuff. I want to get, a good cross section of other people that I've met, be it at shows or have, worked with online or whatever, to have, their information, be able to because I think, making comics, especially at this level, it is very much a community thing.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
it's important to sort of, find your team, find your community, and raise up everybody that is trying to get stuff done.
No, I love that mentality. So for $15, Little Dead Man, you're gonna get a physical copy of Grim Reaper issue number 2, and then a digital as well. For the Space Cowboys at $25, you're going to get a physical copy of Grim Reaper, the digital comic bundle, and then a print of issue 2's cover, and then the Chronic Code Authority sticker. So is this the only way to get the sticker?
Yeah, I may do it as an add-on. It may be a bonus. So it's like, if you are, and I'll probably the same thing with the cover print too. So, I mean, if, we get to the end and you decide that you want to add on a sticker, I'll probably be selling these stickers at shows and everything too, because I mean they're too cool not to,
awesome.
Just have that. I mean, I've got a handful of stickers that I sell at my table at conventions too, just kind of like funny, little things that I've come up with that I'm like, oh, like that'd be a fun sticker, like one of those like the marathon stickers where it's like, however many, like it's like 1.31 or whatever. I've got one that's like 1.21 gigawatts. I got one that's like less than 12 parsecs, so just fun little extra stuff that I can sell at my table for people walking by at shows.
That's awesome. So for $40 or more, we have the You Holden tier, which is the comic shop special. So this will be the retailer tier. You get 5 copies of issue 1 and 5 copies of issue 2 for $40. Outstanding price. That's 10 comics for $40. You can't beat that.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, and hopefully I'd love to see Grim Reefer I've had a couple of stores express some interest in it. So yeah, I mean, they're all the issues are barcoded and have the prices printed on them. So I mean, shops that have point of sale systems can pretty easily scan it into their inventory and manage it that way. As someone who used to own a comic shop, I definitely know that that's something that I would appreciate.
I love how you added that in there too. That is awesome. So for 50 or more, shirts getting real. So you get the physical copy, the digital, the bundle, the cover print, the sticker, and a Grim Reaper logo shirt. So is that going to be the logo with the Grim Reaper on the side?
Yeah, it's going to be the same logo that was up on there where it says, Grim Reefer, and then it will have the that one at the top there, and then that approved by the Chronic Code Authority on there too. So yeah, I can't leave that off.
Yeah,
I mean, at first I was like, well, what if I just did the red? I was like, no, got to put that on because that's funny. Then $200 or more, break on through to the other high.
So in addition to all the previous rewards, you'll get a chance to fulfill your dream of being in a comic book about haunted marijuana. So this will get your likeness into a crowd shot at the beginning of the issue. What issue is this going to be?
This is for that would be for issue 2.
Okay, so you'll actually be in the
issue
that
you'll be in
That's
the
cool.
issue that you're funding. Yeah,
that's
awesome. We had something similar in the first issue. We had a lady get herself and her boyfriend in one of the in the bar shot when Marty shows up to the bar after everything. The two of them were in there, and again, Claudio did a great job with their likenesses.
That's so cool. And that is awesome. And then here is a little bit about the team. We've broken down a lot about you. Do you want to give us a little bit about the rest of the creative team?
Yeah, both Claudio and Cote are from Chile. They've worked on a bunch of others. They've worked on stuff separately and together. When Claudio, when we were first talking about this, I was like, yeah, I want the book to be in color. He recommended Cote as someone to be our colorist, and very, very pleased with his work. He's also a writer. And he and Claudio have actually worked on a book called Futbolitas, which is about, it's very different from Grim Reefer. It's about young people playing soccer. It's like an all ages book. So, Claudio is well on his way to being sort of a Swiss Army artist, being one of those guys that can draw anything. And I believe it. Yeah. I mean, like when Grim Reefer is over, I'm not letting this guy go. If I could find a way to like lock him down under contract.
Let's do something about high soccer, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, I've got plenty of other ideas and plenty of other stuff. I mean, plus, we might be doing a sequel to Grim Reefer if this initial miniseries goes well.
That's so awesome. And then the risk of challenges, of course. You can't control global pandemics or paper shortages. And it sounds like you guys already have a big chunk of it already done. You just need to get the art done, and your art team pumps it out faster than anyone I've ever heard of, really.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they're definitely professional speed. I mean, these are guys that like, this is like the writing is for me. This is their day job. This is what they do. This is how they, make their money, feed their family, et cetera, et cetera. So they don't, and hats off to them. Like, we were pitching those first few pages of Grim Reefer, using those as an example. We were pitching to publishers right before, speaking of global pandemic, like we started pitching this around in like January, February of 2020. And yeah, we were kind of like, twiddling our thumbs. And then when the time came, because if there's a horror story about making comics, I've lived it. Like, I've been doing this long enough that it's like I've had people, I've had amicable comic breakups, I've had unamicable comic breakups. I've had more stuff than I can count started and then never finished because people couldn't hang on. So I was really worried that was going to be the case with this. But as soon as I said to them, like, hey, this is what we're doing, like, let's try Kickstarter. Are you guys down for it? This is what the timeline will be. Both of them were very immediately just like, yes, no, we're in. We want to do this.
That's awesome.
So yeah, that really, my heart grew several sizes that day.
No, that is so cool. So after taking a look at this Kickstarter, going through the campaign, and pretty much breaking down every bit of it that we can, what would you say to anyone who's watching that might be on the fence about backing right now, if you had a chance to kind of just reach out to them in the moment?
I would say that if you like fun horror, slasher style stories, then this is a book for you. You can honestly like the marijuana aspect, and I can understand why, because it's not legal in every state. Obviously, that's a big part of the story. For some people, like, they kind of they still sort of have that, oh, I want to keep that at an arm's length. Like, it's a very niche sort of thing. If you're a horror lover, this book is for you. The weed is like, it's it's the cherry on top. It's the thing that kind of gets things going. Like, Child's Play isn't a movie about voodoo. Voodoo is just how he was able to put himself into a doll.
Yeah.
So like, that's kind of what I would say. Like, so if you're a little concerned about like, oh, like, I don't want it to be just sort of like, goofy nonsense. I mean, there's definitely some goofiness into it. Like I said, like, I can't with a straight face be like, oh yeah, this is like, going to be a sincere, like, really like important, deadly serious kind of book. It's not. It's there's going to be a lot of goofiness to it.
I don't think there's really anything that is like based around weed or has weed involved with it, that is like that, right? Can you really be like ultra super serious, like when I mean, unless it's like some sort of document, like, you know, like I you know, it's like as recreational, it's meant to be fun, it's meant to have fun with, you know.
Yeah, no, it's you're exactly right. I mean, and that's why I was like, you know, you can't make this a super serious story. Like it can be violent, it can be gory, it can be bloody, and there can be stuff that's like, you know, kind of a downer, which there will be. Not everyone's coming off of this trip alive. So yeah, like I just hope that we get a chance for everyone who wants to read it, because, you know, I'm not trying to toot my own horn too hard here, but, you know, I've been selling the first issue at shows for the past year, and the looks on people's faces when I explain, like, hey, this is what the premise is. They're like, yeah, I'm
awesome.
in, you know, like this sounds cool. So I'm hoping that all of those guys are joining us for the second issue Kickstarter, and I hope everybody else out there in internet land does as well.
No, that is awesome. That is awesome. So I know you have 4 issues planned for this and potentially something else after it, but is there anything else in the works or in the pipelines for you outside of Grim Reefer?
Well, yeah, I've got an urban fantasy short story series that I'm working on. It's called the Winston and Churchill Case Files. I sort of refer to it as a kind of like Buffy the Vampire Slayer meets The Odd Couple. They're a pair of mismatched private investigators who work in New York City, and they take on cases involving demons and witchcraft and things like that. The first 2 collections, Summer of Sins and Fall of Shadows, have been out for a little bit, and I'm in the process putting the final edits on the 3rd book, which sort of wraps up their first year of stories. It's called Dead of Winter. That will be out, oh gosh, if not the end of this month, by the end of September.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Man.
Thank you.
Congratulations. This has been such an awesome talk. Thank you for coming on, Thacher. It's been a pleasure to meet you and get a chance to really dive into, you know, the creative process, you know, Grim Reefer and everything in between. I usually love to end this podcast strong, because as much as this is a nice show to promote you and your work, it's also a nice learning tool for anyone new that might be watching. So with that in mind, for any indie creators, writers, artists, or anyone who's maybe just struggling just to get started, what type of advice would you offer to help motivate them just to get going with it?
You're gonna make crap. Like you kind of have to accept the fact that some of your early stuff is not, like, when you look back on it later, like when I looked back on that piece from 15 years ago, you know, like to bring it full circle, like I read that and I was just like, dude, I can't believe that I put this in Tom Brevert's hands, you know, like,
can't believe I thought
like,
this was it.
Yeah. Like I really thought I had something there. And, you know, and maybe these later this later version of it, you know, will be something at some point. But I mean, that's just something that you just have to accept, that, you know, start small, start with, you know, shorter stories, 8-pagers, 12-pagers, 16-pagers, get in the habit of finishing things. Because if you're not, you know, if you're constantly like trying to pitch your 100-page epic or your even 8-issue miniseries, you know, honestly, there are times when I'm like, man, like I'm trying to, you know, hit the ground running with my first fully, you know, long form thing being 4 issues. Like, oh man, that's kind of crazy. Like sometimes I wish I'd been able to pare this down to just a 1-shot, or, you know, maybe a 2-parter. But, you know, it is what it is. We'll see what happens.
You gotta ride it out to the end.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, I think that's, you know, finishing your stuff, and even if it's not what you want it to be, you've got it. Like there's no wasted motion, because you've learned something from that process of making something, and you're going to carry that on to your next project and your next project and your next project. And you'll start, every creative person has that moment where they kind of realize that they've leveled up. For me, it was finishing this first issue and, getting it in and seeing it being like, yeah, this is good. And, there was a lot of words that I wrote before this first issue came out, a lot of pitches that didn't go anywhere. A lot of stuff that's still kind of, sitting on the back burner, waiting for me to sort of like Sauron turn my evil eye toward it and be like, all right, what's next? What's next? What's next? Like, I got stuff with robots and dinosaurs. I got stuff with, airplanes. I got stuff with race car. Like, I got tons of stuff.
Race cars, let's go, baby.
yeah. I've got one that'll sort of, it's sort of like it'll be sort of Supernatural meets the Fast and the Furious. Gotta love those little those easy to put together, elevator pitches of it's like this meets this. It's a little cliche.
It's like Vin Diesel with demons.
Yeah,
family.
Like that's kind of a deal. So I mean, I'm excited. I'm not planning on stopping anytime soon. So.
That is awesome. I appreciate you coming on. Everyone watching, be sure to check out this Kickstarter. Right here is the link to it. Once again, if you can't back it, be sure to share it because word of mouth is 100% free, and you might have a friend who would more than love this comic book series. With that being said, we are going to be wrapping it up. Thacher, thank you so much for coming on, hanging out with us, but most importantly, guys, keeping it geekly.